You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off.
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a hope. Get to the chopper! And we to the flesh wound. I am the father.
超ドラゴン怪獣出現。その名はキングギドラ。ゴジラ対キングギドラ。12月決戦。
And welcome back to the 35th episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. Of course, you got Sludge here. We are down a man with our co-host Mark, who is not here tonight. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then, of course, our brother from Texas,
Ruben?
and then our again joined special guest. Say hello.
RJ?
Yeah.
Hello? What's up? It's me.
It's RJ. So yeah, no, we've been doing these Godzilla films, you know, the father-son duo for a couple episodes now, but unfortunately we're down one father. Mark
Yeah.
signed a deal yesterday on his just bought a house.
I've been trying to get rid of this duo, but he just won't leave. He just will not leave. I'm telling you.
He's stuck there. He don't want to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mark signed a deal on his house. They bought a house yesterday, and he had yesterday off, and then tonight off is the only time he's got off really to kind of get moved, because I think they got to be out of their old house by Friday, so they want to have everything done tonight. Which of course, you know, we pre-record these, and then that way they can get the house cleaned tomorrow and then have everything ready. So we're down one, but that's okay. We will keep going right through this one. This time around, we're back to the Godzilla films. We have got the 1992 third Heisei film, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and yeah, this is I'm so excited for this one. I'm about as excited for this movie as I am Spider-Man 3. So let's, you know, really
Oh,
Man, great film. Both great films.
just so y'all know where Sludge is at on this one. But yeah, so the 1991 film, we'll jump
Revenge
into
of
a
the
synopsis
Sith.
here
Don't forget
for it.
Revenge
So
of the Sith. Yeah, you can't
What's
forget
that?
the Sith.
y'all, dude, this is going to be good. This is going to be fun, because even though, I mean, we'll get there. Sludge will explain. We'll get there. For me, as far as my part. But so this movie, of course, came out in 1991. It was done by Kazuki Omori. This was his second Godzilla film. Of course, he did Godzilla Biollante. This is also his last Godzilla film, for a reason, I think, possibly. But we actually had the return of the great Akira Ifukube coming back to do music again. We're super stoked about that, because they kind of used his music in the last one. We talked about that. Then bringing back the older Godzilla music. Then, of course, was again produced by Tomoyuki Tanaka. Special effects again tackled by Koichi Kawakita, which I will say, special effects in this movie, and we'll get into it, were awesome. I think Koichi Kawakita actually got an award for his special effects on this film. But Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah was also the first of the Heisei movies to bring back the classic guys. I mean, we see in the next film, we've got Mothra coming back, and Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, we've got Mechagodzilla and Rodan coming back. So kind of kicked off the return of a lot of Showa favorites with this film. But they really took King Ghidorah in a really different angle this time around. So let's talk about what happens. The movie's actually set in 1992. And over Japan, they see multiple spots over Japan, a UFO is sighted going over Tokyo, then over the island. We'll talk about this in a minute too, where Godzilla and Biollante fought, and then Mount Fuji. And so the government goes and to inspect this UFO, and it actually turns out not to be aliens, but humans from the future, from the 23rd century, have come back in time to let Japan know they're there to help and save Japan from Godzilla, because in the late 21st century, Godzilla destroys Japan. The nuclear fallout from him causes everybody to have to leave the island completely. So they're there with a plan that they've devised to save Japan from Godzilla. And of course, we've got a few really cool characters we want to talk about real quick. The main character is a character named Kenichiro Terasawa. He is a writer for a magazine and actually writes a book on Godzilla that the Futurians bring back and show them as proof of them being, from the future. And in this book that he's writing, talks about, and of course they talk about in the movies, they've figured out, or Terasawa has figured out, that Godzilla was actually a dinosaur on Lagos Island during the Pacific War in 1944. A group of Japanese soldiers was marooned on the island and was being attacked by American soldiers. And the Godzillasaurus, as they call it, the dinosaur Godzilla was before he became Godzilla, fought the American soldiers off the island, saving the Japanese guys. And then, of course, a few years later, atomic bomb drops near Lagos Island, turns Godzillasaurus into Godzilla as we know him now. So the plan for the Futurians is to go back in time and teleport the Godzillasaurus away from the island so that he doesn't turn into Godzilla and save Japan. And part of these guys is a girl named Emi Kano, who actually is the great-great-granddaughter, we come to find out in the movie, of Terasawa himself. A super cool android played by Robert Scott Field named M11. And, well, the rest of the Futurians are so-so. Wilson's probably my favorite one. They're interesting characters.
I would agree with that statement completely.
Yeah, I mean, because they're just there for the storyline. But so they go to the island in 1944, and they see the Godzillasaurus and him fighting the American soldiers, and then they teleport Godzillasaurus off the island. But before they leave to come back to 1992, their true plot begins to be revealed. And they leave these three little golden gizmo-looking creatures with... They're like if Ghidorah and Gizmo had a child, it's these creatures. They're called Dorats. And there's three of them. They're little single-headed, fat, chunky... It's like Ghidorah with one head, but it's... How would you describe a Dorat other than just a goofy ball of gold?
They're mini single Ghidorahs.
Yeah.
They're individual cute little Ghidorahs,
Yeah.
Yes,
I know.
Keyword, they're cute Ghidorahs. I don't know how that's supposed to work, but it's
they're not.
That's what happens here.
They're not terrifying at all.
So,
well, they got sharp teeth. They got sharp teeth.
What's that, Ruben?
They got sharp teeth.
Well, that's
true.
true.
What I'm saying? I mean, the little that's about as terrifying as they get.
yeah, that really is about it. But so they leave these three Dorats on the island and go back to the future. And of course, one of the characters who notices that the Dorats are gone is Miki Sagusa, who we got introduced in the last movie, the telepath, who fought Godzilla and becomes kind of the go-to when it comes to anything Godzilla. And this one, again, played by Megumi Odaka, who I know this movie is like 2 years apart, but is it just me, or did she look like she drastically aged? Like, not in a bad way, but she looked like she went from like a 15-year-old to like a 20-year-old overnight.
Yeah, it does seem that way, right?
It did. I was like, when I watched it, I was like, man, this was 2 years apart, but Lord, she looks like she aged 5 years. Not saying she looks like an old lady. It's just like she looked really young in Bylante, and this one she looks like an adult.
She went from a teenager to a young adult.
Yeah, very, very quickly. So, but she notices the Dorats missing, and she's the first one to kind of catches on that something is afoot here. Well, so they return back to 1992, and Godzilla is gone, but now they have King Ghidorah to deal with. A new monster has appeared, and that is when all chaos breaks loose, and they find out that the Futurians have lied. Godzilla actually didn't destroy Japan in the late 21st century. They have come back to take control of Japan with Ghidorah. But unbeknownst to them, and unfortunately to their folly attempts to get rid of Godzilla, Godzilla is still reborn with more modern nuclear radioactivity, which makes him much bigger. So before we had Godzilla at 80 meters in 1985 and Godzilla Bylante, now he is 100 meters and about as muscular as Godzilla can be at this point. And when he first shows up, he is absolute beast mode all the way. So we've got Ghidorah and Godzilla, of course, go toe-to-toe. And what is actually a really, really good fight sequence we'll get into. Godzilla and Ghidorah go toe-to-toe, but Godzilla gets the upper hand. Ghidorah just can't seem to top the king of the monsters. Godzilla blows his middle head off, sends him flying to die out into the ocean. And in the middle of all this, with all the human fighting, our character, Emi Kano, manages to turn M11 on her side. And they end up fighting and defeating the Futurians. Actually, they send the Futurians right to where Godzilla and Ghidorah are, and Godzilla blows them away. So M11 and Emi end up going back to the future to devise a plan to come back and stop Godzilla. And that plan is they go and find the body of the almost dead King Ghidorah at the bottom of the ocean and bring him back as a souped-up cyborg as Mega King Ghidorah, in what's probably one of the most beautiful fight sequences in the Heisei series. Just especially with the sets, just super amazing. So Mega King Ghidorah or Emi, who's piloting Mega King Ghidorah, along with M11, who's the computer system for Mega King Ghidorah, fight Godzilla, and ended up carrying him out to with this big massive claw that comes out of his stomach out to the ocean, drops him in, and then they go back to the future, and we get to finish this film. And there you go. That's the quick synopsis of it here. So let's talk about it just a little bit before we jump into what we like. This movie had a as far as a budget, this movie actually ended up underperforming at the box office. This movie had a budget of $12 million. It was like 1.5 billion yen. And then when it was released in December of 1991, it actually only earned $11 million, or 1.4 billion yen. So it actually underperformed. I think that's probably why this was Kazuki Omori's last Godzilla film. But even though it underperformed, it's generally well received by fans. Besides the Dorats, actually James Rolfe of Cinemassacre considered this one of the best films of the Heisei series. Like I said, Koichi Kawakita received it wasn't an Academy Award, Japanese Academy Award, but it was he received a prize for special effects for this film. And it didn't see
I was looking for that, and I can't, I didn't find anything on that. When you told me that, I'm like, man, I researched this film, and I didn't catch that.
Man,
Did you mention James from Cinemassacre?
Yes, yeah.
And that takes me back. I used to watch Angry Video Game Nerd. That Angry Video Game, it's the same.
Yeah,
guy,
that's right. Yep. James is Angry Video Game Nerd.
I watched him out of 2011, 20. I would watch. I think I've seen most of his Godzilla reviews, but I don't know. It just took me back. I totally forgot about that.
Well, I forgot he was the Angry Video Game Nerd until you said that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. But so I mean, this is a major hit or miss film when it comes to the fans. It did, like I said, it didn't do good at the movie theaters, obviously, and it actually didn't even see a release here. We've talked about this before, until 1998 when Sony got the rights and released the Crap Fest with Matthew Broderick, where we got to see the rest of the Heisei series. So that was the first. So we didn't see this here for almost 7 years after this one came out. Which I kind of wish it was, came out. Oh, I saw it before. We talked about it, because I ordered from Video.Kaiju and imported it. But it's an interesting
this
film.
Is one of the films
to
I told
least.
you that I didn't even know existed until it showed up on QVC one day, and I'm like, hey, I want those immediately.
That's right. And I can't remember now when we were talking about it. Did you get, because this came out in a couple different formats. So I mean, mostly VHS back then, but they did eventually do the DVDs. But when you could get this in single VHS, or you can do it in doubles, because this came out in a single VHS. Actually, every one of the Heiseis came out in single VHS. But then you had two doubles that I'm aware of. A double that was King Ghidorah and Mothra, and then a double that was Space Godzilla and Destroya. If I'm mistaken, Meg Godzilla was the only one that didn't get in a double, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I have all the singles. That's the ones I bought.
The singles, okay.
When I bought them, it was actually 3 VHSs in one. I think, if I remember correctly, it was, or maybe it was just the 2. Mothra and King Ghidorah, and Destroya wasn't released yet. Neither was, and I don't remember. I just remember one of them was not available, and then they finally released it. And I remember pre-ordering it and waiting for it forever. And I want to say it was Destroya, but when I ordered it, it was off QVC, and it was Ghidorah and Mothra for sure, and that's the same order I got that Godzilla that Godzilla book that I have, the Continuum
The compendium.
that I bought. Yeah, the Continuum. Yeah, exactly. It all came in. It was like I bought all that one night. I mean, it was a Godzilla hour or whatever on QVC, and I was just buying everything up that they were showing.
I mean,
and I know our listeners know that I always give Godzilla I give Geno 98 credit because it brought all this Godzilla stuff to the forefront again for us to enjoy. So I love that. That's the best thing that came out of Godzilla 98.
yes, the only good thing that came out of Godzilla 98 was
exactly. It was
the
great.
Godzilla boom.
I know I've said it 1,000 times. Toys R Us had all the toys, and it was a great time to be a Godzilla fan. That's all I know.
Oh yeah, like all the
was
Trim
awesome.
Master toys. It was that time was good to be a Godzilla fan as long as you stayed away from the movie theaters.
Yeah, it was just
You-
awesome.
you were-
There was all kinds of stuff, and not just the '98 Godzilla. It was just all kinds of Godzilla stuff, and it was great. So and even and in it we had kind of resurgence. Even when Godzilla 2014 came out, I mean that was great because all the Blu-rays got released.
Yep.
With 2014.
Well, something
So
that was
I like that.
that was big. I thought. Sorry to interrupt there. Too in the '90s, especially around '98, was the Dark Horse Godzilla books.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's just. It was just. I mean, I was like, man, it's just great. So, like, it was so good. I remember, I'd seen, 85. I hadn't seen Biollante, and then these came out, and it was so great to see Godzilla. I guess, other than the way the show, redone, reimagined, so to speak, because it wasn't really reimagining. It was still Godzilla, and they didn't go all out like they did in '98 to just totally redesign them. But it's great to see them, brought up to date,
Revamped, definitely.
so to speak. And it was great to see them brought up to date, and to see the special effects to somewhat. This one, I know I'm getting into what we don't like, but this one took a step backwards, and even though you're saying he won an award for the special effects, I thought the special effects in Biollante, in some parts of this movie, were better. Biollante was better than it was in this movie. It was just.
I would
was
agree
pretty
with that.
choppy when it came to the
I would
special
agree with
effect. Yeah, it was pretty choppy. It went from beautiful to like, what are they doing? Why did they do this? Type of thing, like they're ruining the whole thing here. So, but it was great, and at that time, it was just great to see Godzilla with all the modern stuff, modernized and with better technology, and things like that. So I just remember being excited because it was something new. And like I said, I saw this one before I saw Biollante, because Biollante was not easy to find for me back then. But these were, a phone call away back then on QVC.
Yeah. So, man, as soon as I saw them, I picked them up big time. So, before we jump into it, I do want to ask: did anyone catch and know what? I've never seen anyone talk about this, which is very odd to me because it sticks out like a sore thumb in the film, and I think it's an Easter egg, but I've never heard anybody talk about this. Did you all catch the Easter egg during the Lagos Island scenes with the American soldiers?
Yes. We did.
The Spielberg one?
The
or-
Spielberg
Yes.
Easter egg?
Yes.
Yeah.
Major Spielberg.
Yeah, man. We caught it.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I never hear
actually,
anybody talk about it. I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? Because and it's not an Easter egg. Well, I guess it kind of is an Easter egg for Steven Spielberg. For those who don't know, his father Arnold joined the American. He was in the Air Force, I think, though. But he joined the war in 1942. Yeah, it was right after Pearl Harbor. Like, he joined right after Pearl Harbor, and he served all the way through 1945. So in 1944, he was stationed in that area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
You see,
so-
I didn't know that. I just thought it was an Easter
so
egg.
I thought that was really cool. So I'm like that, and that's what makes it. He tells him, "You'll have to tell your son about that story, Major Spielberg." And it was that they were talking about it being an alien, and I'm like, "Close Encounters of the Third Kind," or E.T.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought,
exactly.
the,
Yeah.
the green aliens or whatever.
Yeah,
He was like, "What? We get into the little green aliens?" And then he says Major Spielberg.
And that's that's the thing that we and RJ
Yeah,
talked about.
We rewinded it because how is he?
Yeah, because I'm like, he was not a major. but that's what they call him. I think he called him a colonel actually.
No, I think he said Major Spielberg,
Major Spielberg,
but
okay.
that still wouldn't make
I'm
sense.
like, but he
'cause-
wasn't a major.
No, no,
You know,
which
that's
was
what threw
odd.
me off. I don't know if he was saying that like, be quiet and I'll make you a major or what.
Who knows?
He called him major. I said, he's not a major. He's not a, that's not right. I told RJ, I said, that's not right.
Yeah.
There's no way he's a major.
No, not especially not the way that he was dressed and the way that he was talking to him. But I thought that was
exactly.
Yeah.
I always thought that was really cool. I'm like, so who on the crew or who at Toho were like, we're going to throw in a really cool, Steven Spielberg Easter egg here. Like, I want to know that
was
story.
cool. And that's not did you catch the other Easter egg that's actually ties it to Biollante. Another figure, the same figure makes an appearance in this one that made an appearance in Biollante.
Oh, the
Godzilla 64.
yeah, yep, that figure is in there. That's right.
Yeah, and he has it on his desk.
See now,
And I'm like, hey, that was the same one they had. I believe it's the same one for Biollante, the same year anyway. Godzilla 64.
Yep. Now, which I'm going to look in the next
That's the
one.
only two.
I'm going to start finding them in every movie now. Like, I know there's going to be a figure somewhere. we're going to find it.
Maybe they're in there in every single one, and we just never noticed it before.
So.
But yeah, he makes an appearance. Yeah, but yeah, I caught that. We both caught it, and it was cool because he was talking about UFOs and close encounter, and he says Spielberg. I'm like, I got that.
Yeah,
I get it.
I thought it was pretty cool. So, all right, well, let's jump into it, man. Let's talk about the things we liked and didn't like. I'm solo on this end, so I'll go last. You guys can go first. Whichever one you want to hit this, go for it.
I'm gonna let RJ go first because he's got his little notepad out and everything, and I just wing it all the time. So.
I just did it right now, but it just allows me to think clearly. Okay. Well, overall, I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I'm curious to see what you have to say. But one of the positives, I have a positive negative list as always, and the first positive I'd say is the story. I know it's goofy. It involves time travel, aliens, robots, but I love that. I thought it was super fun, and I was actually quite interested in the story, like involving the humans. When usually that's kind of like the side thing. I think we've mentioned before in the past. But I was kind of like, I was curious to see where everything was going and stuff. I enjoyed the story. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a really fun story. And I even liked that there was some solid humor for a 1991 Godzilla film. Definitely sometimes where it fell flat and it was kind of quirky. One example where I felt it felt flat and it was kind of quirky was near the end where the humans are fighting, and I believe it's M11 who's now he's good, and the bad guys are trying to look for him, and he's like on top of a ledge and he's like, here I am, and I was like, what? That was kind of weird. But probably one of the funnier parts which I thought was just like it could be in any like sort of sitcom or whatever, was when the author of the book, I forget, I don't want to butcher his name, Teruzawa, asked, so did my book sell really well? And she just straight up replies, actually it didn't, no one really knew about it. Like with a straight face. And he was like, oh. So I thought that was really funny. And so yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. Second positive is gonna be the music. I love the music in this one. Because if I'm not mistaken, it was the first one that Akira did again in a while.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I loved in particular, I always loved the military theme in all of the Godzilla movies, especially the Heisei ones. And this one was really cool because they had like some like bells in it, and it was like the similar tune, but it was like produced differently than usual, and I thought it was cool. And it wasn't like
even the Dorats. If you watch you hear the background music of the Dorats. It's actually the Ghidorah theme.
Yeah.
Yep.
From the show, they just kind of redid it real cute like.
Mm-hmm. Which is like, that's a cool. I love when that happens. Like themes are played on like for example in the greatest movie of all time, Revenge of the Sith, when, as Anakin slowly goes into like the dark side. At random points, like you'll hear the Imperial March like slowly in the background, and it's beautiful. And that's kind of like, it's kind of similar with like the Ghidorah theme playing with the Dorats, because it's like it's the foreshadowing in the music in the themes, which is really cool. But yeah, I always the the dun 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 dun. I love that. So another plus is the monster fights, of course. Ghidorah, is Godzilla's arch nemesis, arguably. I think he's fought him the most.
He's my favorite nemesis. My
Yeah,
favorite.
he's fought him the most, I think, and has even snuck his way into the American Godzilla scene, which was the best decision ever.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so awesome. And then I was actually caught by surprise by Mecha King Ghidorah. I knew, obviously, like I said, I've seen a lot of these, especially the Heisei. I know I've seen them all at least once, but a long time ago when I was a kid. For some reason, I thought Mecha Ghidorah was another movie, but I was surprised to see him come out in this one. I thought the movie was close to ending, and then because Ghidorah had died, I was like, wow, that was fast or whatever. And then he came back as Mecha Ghidorah. I was like, oh shoot, that is this movie. Okay. So I enjoyed that. Godzilla was awesome and muscular and scary. He looked like the mean dog still that I talked about last time.
Yeah.
I loved this design.
Mean dog.
And then I really enjoyed I know like the time travel did make it confusing, but I enjoyed it. Especially because of Godzilla's backstory. Like I love Godzillasaurus. I think that's just that concept is really cool. Like seeing like a sort of like a like a prehistoric Godzilla, like where he came from.
Yeah.
So I thought that was awesome. I love Godzillasaurus. And then to the negatives, I really only had one major negative, which is the special effects. They were pretty clowny in this one, I gotta say. I mean, there was a lot of obvious green screen, a lot of weird editing of special effects scenes, and not so much like monster scenes or anything, but just like scenes where like the scenes where M11 is running.
Oh my god, yes.
And the scenes where like he's flying, it's just like the special effects scenes are weird in this one, and it kind of takes you out a little bit. It's kind of like but that was my major gripe with it. Honestly, was just the special effects. So yeah, that's pretty much that's what I got for that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go next. I like this movie, but we talked beforehand when we were giving our stomp ratings, and we won't. My stomp rating was higher than everybody else's, than RJ's and Sludge's. But,
this is my ship of monsters, without question. This is my ship of monsters.
But it's got my favorite Godzilla nemesis in it. How can I not give it the high? If King Ghidorah's in it, or King Ghidorah, whatever you want to call him. If he's in it, man, I'm in for it. But I liked the movie. It is not my least favorite Heisei. It's if I had to rate it, I would put it at number 3, maybe. No, not number 3. There's too many. Let's just say it's not my least favorite. I like the story because I liked how I didn't like how the Dorat's origin story. I like the origin story that I read about. I wish they would have stuck with that one. The original origin story was they found Ghidorah's remains on Venus.
That's right. Yep.
And they find it on Venus, and they recover it, and they set it, and they get it exposed to the radiation to create Ghidorah. Instead, they went with this. They didn't. Apparently, the writer did not. I mean, not the writer. The director did not want Ghidorah to be from space.
Yeah, well, I think they even because that original idea, if I'm not mistaken, the original plan was not to do Godzilla versus Mothra next. It was to do the return of King Ghidorah, and they were going to make him a space monster again from Venus, from that original plot concept from this that they had for Ghidorah in this one.
Yeah, and from what I read, I'm like, man, I would have liked that better than the Dorats. I think I would have.
I would have liked anything. Give me Ghidorah from Pee-wee's, Big Adventure, other than the Dorats.
Yeah, exactly. I said I want to say I like the story, but even the story had some parts, and I'm like, I think I could have done a better job, and I ain't a professional. Yeah. I'm nowhere near a professional. So, but I like the story because I liked how they needed to make Godzilla bigger somehow. Because the modern world is bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The modern Japan, 91 Japan, I should say, or 92 Japan, was much bigger. And bringing Godzilla back in his original size would have been puny against those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I said, this was a good way of basically doubling Godzilla in size. It was just, I say, hey, you know what? They did it. They did that part right. I said that's a good way to do it. How else could you do it? Exposing him to the radiation again, and they go out of their way to put him somewhere, and he still gets irradiated somehow by some submarine that was out there that crashed or that sunk. So I thought that was good. That's what I liked about it. I liked the story from that aspect of it. What I didn't like about it is the same as RJ. I thought, but I'm going to add, like, the story was so choppy that at times I did not like it. Like, I didn't like the M11 aspect at all in the whole movie. I just didn't like. I thought it was unnecessary, I guess could be the term. I know he's a popular figure and everybody loves him, and he's a cool guy and everything. I just thought, they're trying to steal too much from, and maybe steal's the wrong word, borrow should be the word. They borrow too much from Terminator, and they borrow too much from even from Alien, as far as androids go. So I thought, man, I wish they wouldn't have done that. But all in all, the story was all right. The special effects, that's the part that bothered me, because it was great in some parts, and in other parts, I thought, the blue screen, or green screen, I should say, green screen. Blue screen of death we don't want.
Yeah.
Green screen. The green screen. You could tell right away they were using it, and it made the special effects weaker for that.
Yeah.
The suit and the monster fights were excellent. The suits were excellent. The designs were excellent. I'd like to have seen Ghidorah be a little bit more mobile than they made him, but still, when he was on the ground and fighting Godzilla, it was still an awesome fight. And the fight between him and Godzilla and Mechagodzilla was one of the best of the series, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really very well choreographed and done very well, considering it was, 91. Again, you got to look back to 91. And when it was, or 90, yeah, 90, no, 91 is when it made. It was actually 92 when it was. That's when the story takes place.
Yep.
So I thought the only negative I have of it is the story and the special effects were choppy. I just did not like. I don't like the Dorats. I didn't care much for M11. Even the acting, like the American actors they got, the Spielberg Easter egg we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like they got these guys from. They said, hey, we need some amateur actors. Give me the worst you got. Give me the guys that are
yes.
barely
Oh
passing
my
your
gosh.
classes to see.
Yeah, like the way they were talking to each other was so robotic. I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
and I'm
what?
like, man, they could have gotten better actors for them.
Like and
I
like,
know that this film.
why did they get why were the Futurians American, speaking Japanese? Why were they not just Japanese people from the future? I don't understand that.
Yeah. And it's so funny you would say that, because I noticed that. I said, man, could they get anybody? And I hope I don't offend anybody. I said, could they get any more whiter to play these parts?
Exactly.
Any more American, really?
Yeah.
Like, man. And then they had Emmy. She was like stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. And I know this film got backlash because Americans were killed in the film.
Yeah, that's right. CNN did a big article on it.
Godzilla only killed Americans. I'm like, well, Godzilla already took care of a whole bunch of Japanese way before this. So it's not really a big deal. It's not like he's discriminating, because he took care of a bunch of Japanese way before that. But I thought the acting and the ones that were played American parts, even the soldiers, they like I said, they went to an acting class and said, give me the guys who need extra credit to pass this class. Those are the ones we want.
Yeah.
Because they'll be cheap or free. And because I even questioned, did they dub this over, or is that really their voice?
Yeah.
I was not sure.
Unfortunately, really their voice.
And I read and I looked it up, and I'm like, man, it doesn't say anything here that they dubbed them.
Yeah.
So that was their real voice. And so I am critical of a lot of those parts, because I think this movie, and I know I've said this before about other movies, this movie had the potential to be something great. I mean, it's good, but it could have been excellent. with just a few tweaks here and there, you know. And I think it could have been. I mean, it could have been a lot better. Um, you know, they just could have done a lot better with it. And you know, it was kind of weird too. There was a lot of things, and maybe I'm just too picky. But they talked about being from the future, and then they said, "Well, we want to meet with your prime minister. Just tell us where to go, and we'll meet there." I said, "Well, they should know where the prime minister lives.
Yeah.
Why can't they just go? They're from the future." And you know, they talked about different things, and I'm like, "Well, they should know that they're from the future. They should know this." And you know what really bothered me is they erased Godzilla from history, but they all come back to '92, and everybody still knew about Godzilla.
Yeah,
I
which
don't know if you
didn't.
noticed that or
Yeah,
not.
there was a couple time traveling errors in this film for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, that bothered me too much. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If they erased Godzilla and he never existed, you know, and like that guy, I was telling RJ, I said he wrote a whole book about Godzilla. They just erased him. That's it. His book is no longer in existence. You know, and then he comes back, and I guess that girl he works with, the one that likes him, that's always on him. She, you know, they're talking about that Godzilla book. They're talking about the Godzilla book. I'm like, well, how does she know about Godzilla if he never existed?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how that works. So that
pretty,
bothered me.
yeah, they were pretty careless with the whole time travel thing. Like they kind of just like took it and ran with it and didn't really bother to fill in any of the gaps.
No,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
not at all.
That'll be all right. And it could be, you know what, Godzilla. You know, Japan, when Godzilla makes these Japan, Toho makes these movies, I guess they don't make them for adults. They make them for children, I guess, for the most part. Even though there's nothing childish about the movie, but it just seems, I guess, their target audience.
Man, I don't know. I mean, hopefully they. I mean, I'm agreeing with you, but then all of a sudden I think and go, they must have some pretty low expectations for the intelligence of their children if they did. You know, I mean, if they didn't catch the time travel
that's
issues.
true,
in
because
this.
I'm catching all this stuff, and they're saying, well, that two of them can't exist in the same time period because one of them will disappear, but yet King Ghidorah's body
is in the ocean while King Ghidorah is there. Yeah, that makes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mecha King Ghidorah is there at the same time. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What you just said? That they couldn't exist at the same
Right.
time period. That's the critique stuff, which is, you know, in the scheme, the big scheme or whatever scheme of things, it's not really a huge deal because I still enjoy the movie and it's not my least favorite, you know, of the high sea at all. I mean, it might be my third least favorite, maybe. You know, I think I like Balante a little bit better than I like this one. But not by much. I'd fight those two. You know, it depends on how I feel. But that's basically all I got. I like the music score, just like RJ said. I like the score. I thought it was good. I like that they threw in that little Ghidorah theme behind the Dorats very subtly. Then unless you're listening, you don't. You know, unless you're really listening, you don't even hear it. I don't know. Did you catch it?
Yeah.
Sludge?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Okay, I did. Okay, you know, it's very subtle, and like I said, I'm King Ghidorah fan, man. If Ghidorah's in it, man, I'm all in. So, hence my high rating. So I give it on to the lowest rating.
The lowest one in the
here.
book here.
Hand it over
Man.
to Sludge.
Oh, this movie had potential. Like the potential for a phenomenal movie was there. Because you had Godzilla and you have King Ghidorah. Like you really don't need much else. Like keep the formula simple. Keep a King Ghidorah from coming from space, and all we need to do is see those two duke it out. In the new special effects, the bigger Godzilla, we'd have been totally fine. But they went way out into left field on this one. Okay. Let's just go ahead and get the likes out of the way. Because there's not a whole lot. When I watched this, it's been a while since I watched this one, and when I watched this the other day, I remembered why it's been so long since I've seen this, because I don't watch it for a reason. I love the monster special effects. Like Ghidorah and Mega King Ghidorah looked great. I loved the way that they looked and the way they were handled. I loved Godzilla's design. He was huge and, yes, scary in this movie. Like that first scene of him coming up out of the ocean over that rock cliff edge, I'm just like, dude, you are intimidating. It was so good. So I like that. I like the set work, like this the sets for the business district where Godzilla and Ghidorah fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, those were by far the best we had seen yet from Godzilla film. I think I thought they were absolutely phenomenal. So I like that. I love the return of Akira Ifukube. I love the soundtrack in this movie. I loved all the original Godzilla scores. The new stuff was good. I mean, all the the cool new scores for the Futurians when the scenes was really cool. The subtle little like the Ghidorah theme and the Dorats was pretty sweet. And then Miki Sagasa's in it, and that's where it stops. I don't. That's it. That is what I like about the movie, and that's all. And that takes up like 20 minutes of the film. I have so many problems with this movie. Well, I like the Godzilla source thing too. I'm with you, RJ and Ruben. Like that was cool. I liked seeing Godzilla before he became Godzilla. It drove me nuts a little bit because I feel like they cut so many corners of this movie because they didn't even make a cool new sound for his roar. They just totally stole all the Gamera roars. That's what they did. Like, did you notice that?
They were very similar. Yeah, they borrowed very much so from Gamera. Yeah.
Oh, dude, like I was listening to them, like, man, they totally ripped the roars out of these Gamera films and just pasted it in here. Like, I'm like, come on, especially when he's getting shot, and by the weapons. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, that drove me up a wall. I'm like, come on, you could have come up with something a little more original than that. But other than that, I mean, I like the way he looked. Really cool. I thought it was really cool too because when you see Godzilla Jr. and God of Destroya, there's a lot more similarities between the Godzillasaurus and Jr. himself. So I thought that was really, really cool. But this movie's got so many flaws. So I mean, I love watching crappy movies, but I love my Godzilla films. I put them in a little bit of a higher standard for myself personally because I'm a Godzilla fanatic. And there was too many issues. The time traveling thing was way too just out there and just weird and things that, and like you talked about the errors, with the Ghidorah being at the ocean and then Meghidra being at the same time, and I mean just everything there was too many problems coming back, and everyone still remembers who Godzilla is. That shouldn't have been the case. Yeah. Just too many issues there with the time traveling. They hired the cheapest actors they could find to be the Futurians. I'm like, why didn't you just get good Japanese actors that could speak Japanese to play these dudes instead of hiring some weird looking Americans that can hardly speak Japanese to do these roles? Like, it's odd.
And then put them in breakdancing out. Then they put them in the breakdancing outfit.
I know, man. It's like I feel like Kazuki
outfits out of the 80s.
What's that?
I said I saw that in Breaking when I saw Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, dude. I feel like Kazuki Amori, and I think Shogo Tomiyama helped with this one too. I feel like they just had a really crazy alcohol and drug induced weekend where they were listening to MC Hammer, watching Total Recall, The Terminator, while going to work at Toho, and like, oh, dude, this is a great formula for a Godzilla movie, and then this is what we got. Like, it just, there's too much in this. Yeah. Like, it's convoluted. I like the M11 character. Like, I thought he was cool. I mean, if you're going to have something to me, it would have made more sense for them to actually have characters from 1992 or 91, whatever, create a time machine and go back in time versus having Futurians come, from it's like to me, that's just a lazy attempt. It's like, oh, we need a time machine. Have people from the future bring it to us. I'm like, okay, that was a cop out. But so, I mean, if you're going to have somebody from the future, of course you want to see an android of some kind. I mean, anything we see in the future, you're going to see an android, whether it's aliens or Terminator, So, I mean, I was cool with the character. Like, I thought it was really cool. I liked that he switched sides and was Emmy's right-hand man type deal. But come on with the special effects. Like, they were so bad. Yeah. They were not, it was inexcusable. Like, Toho gave us Gunhead in 1989. The same year we got Malante, exactly, and the special effects in Gunhead are freaking superb. Like, I think some of the special effects in Gunhead, which is also done by Koichi Kawakita, are better than most of the Godzilla Heisei series. Like, he just did an outlandishly amazing job with Gunhead. But then,
and that's what bothers me about a lot of these films. That Toho seems to do great and then take a couple steps back. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like
It's like, what happened?
Look what they just did, and then they come out with something else, and I'm like, dude, really? Why'd you do that? You were doing so good.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, it's like one step forward, two steps back. You know, type of deal.
1989, I think, had some of the best special effects for Japanese cinema. Sorry, period. I mean, Godzilla vs. Biollante had some phenomenal special effects in it. Gunhead,
Yes.
absolutely amazing special effects. But you also had Tetsuo the Iron Man came out in 1989, and that's some of the special effects in that movie. Now, if for those listening have never seen Tetsuo the Iron Man, I don't recommend watching Tetsuo the Iron Man. That movie is really out there. And not child safe by any means. But the special effects in that movie, Tetsuo the Iron Man is really, when it comes to the whole, what's the cyberpunk? Okay, cyberpunk originated from Tetsuo the Iron Man. Like that whole fad, that's where it came from. Was from that movie in 1989. But the special effects in that are absolutely unreal. Like, I mean, just mind blowing. You look at it and you go, there's no way this is 1989. And it absolutely is. So I look back and I'm like, man, what happened here? Like, the monster fights are great. I think the special effects look really good. They're not the best, but they still look really good. But all the other special effects when it comes to M11 or the UFO or any other special effect in this movie, period, was just garbage. Just absolute garbage, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, I struggled with that. And man, Ghidorah is I'm like you, Ruben. He's my favorite Godzilla villain. He's the best of the best. There's a reason why Godzilla's fought him more than any other character. And the two issues I had with Ghidorah in this film was simply this. Every time prior to this, Godzilla has always had to have help to fight Ghidorah because Ghidorah's that powerful. He didn't this time around. You know what I mean? Like, and which is fine with me because I mean, you know, it changes here. You know what I mean? When you see him and Kaiser Ghidorah fight in Final Wars, it's just those two toe to toe, and it was great. You know, and you again, you know, in King of the Monsters last year, it was, you know, really kind of boiled down to just those two toe to toe eventually, and it was great. But if it's going to be that first fight with them with no other interference, it was really short. You know what I mean? Like it was just kind of quick one and done, and that was kind of disappointing. And
it was very, very, it was child's play for Godzilla versus actually having a struggle with him.
Yeah. I'm like, you seem to have a harder time with Biollante, you know, a couple years prior.
Yeah. I mean, he had Godzilla at one point where he was stomping on him, but even that was momentary. That was like not even 20 seconds of Godzilla on the ground getting stomped on by King Ghidorah.
Yeah, right.
And
I mean,
got right out up and it was over.
The last time we saw Ghidorah and Godzilla on screen together, even though the Ghidorah suit was heavily damaged and was very minimal I could do, I mean, Godzilla was bleeding, man. I mean, like that was then it was a hardcore fight, and so I expected more out of this fight than what I got. Now that was a little more made up and felt better with the Mega King Ghidorah fight, which was great.
That one was good, yeah.
So good. But then my other biggest beef is Ghidorah's story, man. Like you can't create Godzilla's arch nemesis from three little golden dragon mixed with gizmo creatures. Like you can't take a golden Furby and create Ghidorah out of it. Like you can't, I cannot stand that.
And that makes sense too, because if those three little like cute little Furby looking things became Ghidorah, Godzilla should be a lot more terrifying than he actually is, because Godzilla's source is already kind of scary.
Yeah,
and radioactivity turned him into Godzilla, and if the Dorats turned into King Ghidorah, then I think they messed up the scale of radioactivity there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because, you know what I mean? Because I know Godzilla's big and muscular, but he should be like, if those Dorats turn into Ghidorahs, what I'm saying is that the
scale of mutation.
I think the radioactivity messed up King Ghidorah more.
What they should have done, and this is just my opinion, and our listeners can say, "Oh, Ruben's crazy." They should have made him a space alien. If you ask me, they should have made him a space alien that gets defeated, and then those same aliens come back with Space Godzilla and say, "Okay, fine, we lost with Ghidorah. Here's Space Godzilla."
That would have been totally cool. That probably would have made Space Godzilla even cooler too, actually.
Yeah, because that would it would have kept the continuity. You would have had the aliens say, "Oh, okay, well, we lost with King Ghidorah. Back to the drawing board."
Yeah.
And they say, "Well, you know what? We got the stuff from Biollante because Space Godzilla apparently is a mutation from Biollante, and they could have kept that, and they could have said, we got the cells from G cells from Biollante. We're gonna create another creature, and then we're gonna send them right back in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been that would too. That's just me thinking. I'm like, that's what I would have done. But that and 50 cents will get you not even a cup of ice, I guess, nowadays.
It's just,
coffee,
yeah.
you can't get a cup of coffee for 50 cents no more.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't like that origin story at all. I mean, and like I said, so I agree with you 100%. Actually, all the things that you said that you don't like about the film, I don't like about them either. I think we're pretty lined up on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, the potential for this film was there. It just, Kazuki Omori just had too many drugs or alcohol in his system and totally just foobarred this film somehow. I mean, when I enjoy Ghidorah in 2 solo Mothra films better, that's an issue. You know what I mean?
If this was an album, a music album, I'd say, you know what, the record company got involved in this album.
Absolutely.
Like, this is not the artist. This is not the artist, man. This is the record company telling the artist what to do. And I don't know if maybe that's what happened. Maybe Toho got involved, and somebody higher up says, we don't want that. This is what we want, and you're gonna make it, type deal. But this is the feel I get from this film is the record company got involved. I don't know any other way to put it, as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its shining moments. They're very few and far between, but they're there. It's still a Godzilla movie. It's definitely not 98. It's definitely not Godzilla's Revenge. It's not Son of Godzilla. But I mean, for me, this one, Justin McLean tried to guess my, favorites order for the Heisei series. And he actually got it pretty spot on. But it wasn't until I watched this one again that I realized this is the bottom of the barrel for the Heisei for me. Like Space Godzilla, not by much, but definitely takes the cake over this one just a little bit.
You know what? And when I watch Space Godzilla, I mean, it's no secret. We're already pretty much saying I might change my mind and say, you know what, this one's worse than Space Godzilla. But I don't know. Space Godzilla. It's just let's put it this way: Space Godzilla is not on my list of like, I think I'm gonna pop in Space Godzilla right now. Just doesn't happen. Now, if it's on TV, if it's on Sony channel, plays them quite a bit. If it's on TV and it pops up, Space Godzilla pops up, I'll sit there and watch it. I will sit there and watch it. But as far as like getting up and going over to my my shelf where I have all my Blu-rays and stuff, that one's usually not on the list.
Man, I'm telling you, and we'll get to it, but and do this actually before, and we'll jump back into this movie for a second. But you made me think about it too, because I meant to tell Mark this as well. Before you watch Space Godzilla, okay, when we get to that episode, keep this thought in mind. If it had a different soundtrack, it would be a 10 times better film. Because I swear up and down,
you know what? That might be what it is. Because I was gonna say there's something. The difference between Space Godzilla and this one is the feel. There's something about the feel, and I don't know if I can describe it other than that. It's just the feel, and it might be the soundtrack.
I'm telling you,
might be the difference.
Yeah,
right
I
there.
promise
You
that's
might
what it is, man.
100% right about that. I never noticed that, but I will keep a note that because there's something about that one. But this one, of course, like I said, it's the feel versus of them two that we're talking about, and plus, of course, this got King Ghidorah, so that's plus 10 points right there for me. So that's always plus 10 for me. But just so you mentioned Kaiser Ghidorah.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm going to be one of the few people that did not like Kaiser Ghidorah.
What?
I just don't. I did not like him, man. There's something about. I just didn't like him.
Is it that he has four limbs?
Maybe I think it's because he has 4 limbs. I'm like, no, I can't do this.
Oh man.
No. Give me back my classic.
I always Final Wars is one of my favorite Godzilla films. I feel like it's just fun from beginning to end. But I liked Kaiser Ghidorah, but I guess I never really saw him as I saw him as a separate thing. Honestly. I don't really view him as Ghidorah.
I don't either. I view him the same way as Death Ghidorah from Mothra '96.
Yeah, and Death Ghidorah is badass. And I haven't
Uh-huh.
seen. I honestly I haven't seen the Mothra films, because that's where he comes out in, right? The like
Mothras.
Mothra, the
Mhm.
Rebirth or whatever. I
The
think.
rebirth of
Yeah.
I want to see those because
Oh,
all
dude.
the Ghidorahs like
Oh,
are
dude.
yeah, they seem like I've seen their designs and they're super cool. I want a Death Ghidorah figure, but those are harder to come across. So, but yeah,
I highly recommend that series. Like the first is the best, but that's a great series to watch.
okay, cool. I'll have to check it out.
You know, I've never, I've seen them on TV. That's it.
Yeah.
And we have the Blu-rays sitting there
All of
unopened. All of them.
Oh,
The
nice.
Blu-rays
okay.
are sitting right there
We'll have to watch
unopened.
them.
And they're just sitting there. I bought them when 2014 came.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mothra-
dude.
the Mothra films came out.
They're great, man. I mean, like, and even talking, with Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, like when we talk about the Mothra movies, like I genuinely enjoyed Death Ghidorah and Grand Ghidorah in the Mothra 3 film so much more than what I got out of this film. Like, right or wrong,
Okay.
you know what I mean? I was more entertained, enjoyed seeing. I felt like I felt like he was more Ghidorah in those films than this one.
I gotcha. Yeah, and I'm just like I said, I've seen them on TV. That's it. And I don't think I've ever sat there and just watched the whole series from beginning to end. You know.
Oh,
night
man.
after night.
That first one especially, man. That first Rebirth of Mothra, the 96 one, I think that's one of the best Toho monster films ever made. I mean, it's the main characters are kids, and it's not as, I mean, the first one's not as kiddie as you would think. The next two get very kiddie. But the introduction of Leo, he's a freaking beast in that movie.
Yeah, my nephew really digs that
yeah,
Mothra series.
yeah.
My nephew Patrick really digs that Mothra. He's always talking about him
Oh, he's
to me.
he's an
Yeah.
absolute beast, man. Like if you put Godzilla and Mothra Leo toe to toe, it'd be a tough, man. Like it wouldn't be like Godzilla and Mothra normally. Like Mothra needs Batra or
Yeah.
somebody else to help her out, not Leo, dude. Leo is a brawler and in a massively cool way.
Now I know what I'm doing this weekend. I think.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so it's definitely worth it. But
But it's funny
anyways,
how all the negatives you have. I think we can all agree on those negatives. It's so
Yeah.
funny, and we still gave it different ratings.
Yeah, I
Stock
think it was
ratings.
just our perception of those
Yes,
things.
it's a
Because
perception.
I kind of looked past the special effects part, and like I said, I enjoyed the story, but all the things you brought up, like that
Yeah.
my dad brought up and that you brought up about the plot holes, like I recognize that. Like I'm gonna be honest, like coming into this, I wasn't sure of the entire story. I just know that I sat there and enjoyed it. Did I know? Would I be able to retell it perfectly? Most likely not, because I don't think they even retold the story.
no, they didn't.
But I looked past it. But you're right. I agree though. There was definitely they definitely could have done better in the storytelling department.
In other words, there's no defense. I mean,
Yeah.
like if we were in a debate, there's no way I could logically tell you, no, you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
In some other movies we've done, we could kind of say, well, no, I don't think so. I think not
Yeah.
this one. I think this one, it's basically like RJ said, it's our perception of it and how we saw it.
Yeah.
Like I gave it a higher rating because of Ghidorah,
Yeah.
and I saw past a lot more flaws than
Yeah.
y'all did, maybe, because I'm the highest. And then followed by RJ, followed by.
I just the
Tristan,
reason I
plus.
give it. Well, we haven't revealed, but I give it. Or I don't know if I can do that. I'll give it a. I was gonna give it a 3, because it was just kind of like, it wasn't like the best thing in the world, but it definitely wasn't totally unenjoyable. I sat there and I enjoyed it and I had fun. So I was like, I almost gave it a 3.5, but I was like, no, 3, because the special effects were pretty
Yeah,
horrendous.
pretty
so
lame.
pretty horrendous.
definitely. Well, this one, I mean, yes.
But it's still a good
it's-
Godzilla film. I mean, I don't think anybody and I've said this before in other shows. It's a Godzilla movie and it's fun and I think you'll enjoy it. You just have to look past. Don't go into it trying to logically, make sense of it because there's a lot of plot holes in this
Yeah.
thing, a lot.
Oh yeah.
But it's still fun to watch. It's still Godzilla. It's still Ghidorah, and Godzilla is a super beast in this one. To steal a term from Rob Zombie.
Oh, he definitely
He a
is.
super beast in this one. Yeah, he is a super beast in this one, and it's well worth the wait to see him just get juiced up like that. You know what? And they did the same thing in King of the Monsters, man.
Yeah.
They juiced him up.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
they
that's
just-
true. I
Yeah,
didn't
they
think
did the
about
same
that.
thing in King of the Monsters. They brought him back, and they
came back and-
actually took some of this plot. They said, okay, well, how
Yeah.
do we make Godzilla bigger? This
Yeah.
is how we make him bigger. And they basically just,
Yeah.
this is right. That part is right out of the story.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing King of the Monsters to this.
Yeah.
There's just no comparison there.
No.
They took that piece of it. They took from it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this
it was
one,
awesome. For us,
Yeah,
Godzilla fans, that was awesome when they did it.
it's still got its fun moments. I mean, this one, it's far better than these films. It is far better than Godzilla's Revenge or Son of Godzilla. But this,
Yeah.
to me, is the equivalent of like the Godzilla's Revenge or Son of Godzilla of the Heisei series. Still fun, still Godzilla movie. You're going to enjoy it. It just didn't hit par with any of the other films.
If you're a diehard guy, if you're a Godzilla fan, you're gonna notice the failures here. I guess failure is a strong word, but you're gonna notice a couple of notches lost from other Godzilla films.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very obvious. But if you can look past that and just enjoy it for what it is, man, you'll have a great time.
Oh yeah, the King Ghidorah and Godzilla fight, while short, was still great. The Mega King Ghidorah Godzilla fight
And
is
it's
absolutely
a good,
awesome.
It's a good film to watch with your kids because the kids will like the Dorats.
Yeah,
saying,
that's
like,
true.
you have
They
like
will.
So you have a 6 or 7 year old, and they'll like the Dorats, and they'll like of course they'll love the monster battles because they're the only part that would be bloody was when Godzillasaurus got shot, and even that wasn't too bad, but other than that,
But honestly, the door that's why they could have gone a completely different way. Like the Dorats are in it for like literally 10-15 seconds.
yeah,
Like they don't that's all it is. Like so I feel like they could have gone a different way, but for some reason they wanted to do that. But
I'm telling you.
because even I would compare them to like they seem very what is it Ewokish or very
Yeah.
you know what I mean or the
yeah.
Porgs. You
The
know what I mean?
Porgs, yeah.
Like they have that sort of same sentimentality. I feel like,
Yeah,
but they
yeah,
don't
that's
even
good,
get
yeah.
that full effect of sentimentality
because they're not in the
they're
film
not.
long
In, I
enough.
feel like they could have capitalized off of it if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But they. That's what I mean. What was the reason behind that? If they're not gonna, why are they gonna make such a? Yeah, I'll call it. It's a strange decision when they're not even gonna go all the way with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So.
Yeah, because it's
that's
so
what it seems
brief with
like.
them too. I mean, they're in the film 30 seconds at most.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They're not. It's not like they're a big part or anything. Like.
Yeah.
So.
At
I
least
don't-
have them, when they land on the island, have them off there and go, like, do something dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go knock something over, or bite
Yeah,
somebody,
that's
or
always
do
how it-
something.
That's always how it goes.
Yeah. So,
So
but you're right. I mean, yeah.
all right, so well, as far as the rating, I mean, RJ, you jumped in on it there, man. I mean, you were right.
Yes.
We gave this kind of low, but we did give this an overall 3 out of 5 stomps. So not the worst stomp rating
And
we've
the- and
given.
the 3, and
but-
I'll be honest, the 3 is there because I gave it a 3.5.
That's true.
And
Sludge
so I
gave it a
the high
solid
rating,
2.5.
yeah. But it's a fun film. I don't think anybody would be disappointed Of course, I'm never disappointed in a Godzilla film.
Nah, yeah, not at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, I mean, if you watch Godzilla's Revenge, you'll enjoy this one. We promise.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I'll watch Godzilla's Revenge. If it's that's another one. If it's on TV, I'll watch it. It's just and I'll probably watch it because I'm going through still going through my Showa set. When I get to it, I'm gonna watch it just because I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Type of deal. So I'm never disappointed. I can watch Godzilla. Anytime, any day.
That is very,
It's just
very,
like, yeah,
very
I'll
true.
watch it.
So yeah, there you go, man. Three out of 5. We still enjoyed it, even though there was, we listed a lot of flaws. There was still enough in this to make it a good Godzilla film. Push comes to shove. So, which is, it's Godzilla. You're going to enjoy it. And he looks so good in this one. You know what I mean? So there's no way not to like it when he shows up on screen. But so of course, again, thank you guys. RJ, again, thank you for being here. Now, the question is, though, before we start announcing the next upcoming episodes, the next Godzilla film, of course, we got The Relic next week that we're doing. Super, super stoked about that movie. I cannot wait. I've already watched it like 4 or 5 times, like prepping for that episode because I love that movie. But our next Godzilla film is actually the second highest grossing Japanese Godzilla film of all time. Did you guys know that?
Wow.
No.
I did not know that.
Yes, Godzilla versus Mothra, or Godzilla against Mothra: Battle for Earth, whatever you would like to call it, is only surpassed by Shin Godzilla as far as box office gross in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yep, it actually
Wow.
did roughly $20 million in Japan. It was the highest grossing Godzilla film in Japan until Shin Godzilla came out.
Wow.
So there's just
not know
something
that.
about having the king and the queen of the monsters on screen at the same time, man. Something special
I guess
happens
so,
when you put
yeah.
those on screen together.
I would figure on Destroyer because that was going to be supposed to be the end.
Yeah.
You know, so I would if I was to venture a guess, if I was a betting man, I would have bitten Destroyer. If it was a trivia question. But then again, you know, Mothra was pretty popular in Japan, so I can see that.
Yeah,
you know.
hugely popular, you know. So, but yeah, so RJ, will you be here for that episode, or when do you go back? Do you know yet?
Still don't know
Yeah,
yet. It's
everything's
still
up in the
everything's
air.
still up in the air. As far as I know, I should be able to. But yeah, so I should hopefully be able to do it.
Sweet. Well, that would be cool. So, yeah, excited for that one. So then, man, thank you guys. You know, again, we'll be back next week with The Relic. Super great Monster Museum film. I'm a sucker for those films. Like any type of Monster Museum film, I'm there. Like I'll buy the popcorn and tickets for everybody because I just love those type of movies. They're so much fun for me. And then after that, of course, we'll come back next month with Godzilla versus Mothra, the 92 film. And then we haven't quite decided what we're going to do for the next monster movie Stompdown, but we'll let you know in the next episode. I think we're going to dig through some archives and figure out what everybody wants to do and give you guys something super special. But and again, we missed Mark tonight, but that's okay. He lucked out. If there's any movie he's probably going to miss for Godzilla's, it would probably been this one because I know he is an absolute not fan of the Dorats when it comes to this movie. I was talking to him yesterday. And I was like, when was the last time you watched it? He says, man, it's been forever ago. I'm trying to remember which one this one was. I said, it's the one with the Dorats. He goes, oh, yeah, those things. I was like, yeah. So I
That's
think
why.
he would have had a gut through this
Then
one.
all of a
So.
sudden
You
he
guys
goes,
got
"You know
anything
what?
else?
You know, I'm closing, man. I'm moving. I can't help you. I can't do the show.
Yeah, 3 ways. It's like, oh, man, I'm sorry.
Oh, man,
It's not going to happen.
You know what? We're gonna
He'd
we're gonna move that day.
Yeah, he'd rather carry like 200-300-pound dressers instead of just sitting here talking about this
Yeah, there
Godzilla
you go.
film. So, do you guys got anything else you want to add for the film?
No,
No.
we're good.
Alrighty. Well, man, thank you guys again so much, guys. Thank you all for listening. This is Sludge.
RJ.
And Ruben.
Y'all have a good night.
Get to the chopper! And the flesh wound.